Okay. Okay, so let me start over really quickly. All of the skills and experience and expertise that you gathered in your medical transcription and scribing work environments can all be used here. So it is very similar, but it's also very different. So I do want to talk a little bit about that so you can kind of understand why we have specific guidelines and requirements, that we ask you to perform in this project. So in this project, you are going to receive audio that is recorded during an active office visit. So during the visit between a patient and a healthcare provider. So the audio is conversational in nature. These are not dictated audio reports. So you're going to have a conversation, and then you'll also have the text, the transcript, the verbatim transcript of that conversation. And what we're tasked with doing is pulling out the pertinent medical information from that conversation and creating a legitimate transcription as if the provider were to have dictated it. So all of your expertise is going to allow you to identify those areas in the conversation that are important, as well as identify the areas in the conversation that are not important, and you'll know to leave those out. After we create the transcription, then all of our statements that we create, our statements and sentences, we are going to link with the raw evidence. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. It may not make sense yet, but it will. When I start showing you the evidence linking, let me know if it does not make sense, and we'll go over it again. Okay, so it's 2 steps. You're going to create a transcription from the conversational audio and raw text, and then you're going to link the evidence back. You're going to link your statements back to the raw text as evidence. So that's how it differs from regular transcription or scribing work. Now, it is also different in that these things that we're creating, these transcripts, don't go to a provider. They don't go in a medical chart. They're not used for patient care. Instead, these are being used for artificial intelligence software. So they're going to increase the accuracy of speech recognition for medical software. Okay, so we have to keep that in mind. We have specific formatting that may not make sense to you, but we have those guidelines so that the software can read the data easier, and it's able to pull out the information in an easier fashion than if you weren't following the guidelines. So that's why we have very specific guidelines. In this project, just keep that in the back of your mind, that the end result is not going to a human to look over. It's being used in software. So that's how it's different. Any questions so far? Okay.
No, Tracy.
Okay, awesome. So the project objective and the project workflow, that's sort of what I just went over. I do want to take a break here, and I want to show you what a file will look like when you receive it. So I'm going to pause my screen and log in, or get to the login screen. Hold on 1 sec.
So just to confirm once, like to be double sure, like these are like real-time conversations between doctor and patient?
Well, they're recorded, so they're not like streaming. They're recorded in the past. Some are like 10 years old, but they
Perfect. Okay.
are conversations
Got it.
that were recorded at the time of the visit.
Right.
Oh, yeah. So here's the login page. You don't have to worry about it because I'll send you all this information in the email. So I'm going to log in with my demo account. So Henry asked what the TAT is. There's not a specific TAT. We have batches that have to be completed every week. So if you are going to work the project, and let's say you're going to work, 5 hours a day, it does take about an hour to complete the average file. So if you were going to work 5 hours a day, then we would expect on average that you could complete 5 files a day. So that's what we would be looking for. But we don't have traditional TATs like transcription because, these aren't going back to a provider. We just have, batches of 1,000 files that have to be due, by a certain day. Does that make sense, Henry? Okay, so I just logged in. Let me kind of give you a little tour here. Your audio file is going to load at the top, so that's the conversation. Your text of that audio file is going to load into the right-hand window. You want to make sure that you have your evidence linking turned on, so it's gray. You want that dark gray, so make sure that's turned on. Your blank template is going to load in the left-hand window, and this is where you're going to type all your information. Okay, now a few things before we get started. Do either one of you have a foot pedal?
Yes, Tracy, I do have, but it has been a long time I've been not using it because
Okay.
I'm using shortcut keys most of probably here.
Okay, you can use both. So if you have an infinity foot pedal, you can pick it up. I'll show you that really quick. So to hook an infinity foot pedal up, you plug it in, then you're going to click connect foot pedal here in the middle. It'll open up this window, and then you can select the foot pedal and click connect. Okay, now I don't think that'll work with other foot pedals, but it does infinity foot pedals. You don't have to use it, but I wanted to show you in case you wanted to use it. You can use hotkeys. So if we look over here to the left, if I press Control-Alt-Shift, it'll make my hotkeys visible. So right now, Alt / is my play stop hotkey. Okay, so
I'm developing shingles again for the third time.
So I can play and stop with Alt /. You can change that if you just click the combination. You can change it to whatever. So I don't know, Alt K, and then click set hotkey, and you could use Alt K, whatever you want. I like to use the default ones. So I'll put mine back to the default. Okay, you have other hotkeys you can use for rewind and fast forward. You can set your rewind increment and fast forward increment. And then this setting is the auto back step, which basically automatically rewinds every time you stop playing. So you can use that. If not, just set it to 0, 0. I think it's set to 0, 0 by default. So that's up to you on if you want to use it or not. However, whatever makes things most efficient for you, you use that, in regards to the player settings. Back over here to the left, The only other thing that you really need or may need on the left window is the object ID. So if you have a problem with a file, you can give us this ID. It's also up here in the URL. Otherwise, you can just kind of collapse that window and have more, screen real estate. Okay, so you have any questions on the tools? Probably not, but I just want to make sure.
No questions, pretty clear.
Oh,
Thank you.
Okay, so once you get a file and you figured out the hotkeys or the player, then you just need to start. So you have the audio at the top and you've got the raw text on the right. Okay, I like to link my evidence as I type it because I think it's more efficient. But you can do it however you want. The bottom line is everything that you type has to be linked to evidence. And if it doesn't, then we send it back to you and make you link it anyway. So go ahead and do it the first time so that we don't have to send files back to you. Let me show you what it looks like. Now, keep in mind, this is a demo and, I don't want us spending, an hour doing this file when we have other things we need to look at. So we're going to imagine that everything that I type is, completely accurate and how a professional MT would do it, and all the evidence is linked. So we're going to imagine that. I'm going to try to do my best because I do have notes on this visit, but just keep in mind that this is just a demo. That I may not say things exactly as you would. Perhaps I missed a linking over here, but in production files, you would want to make sure everything is accurate. Okay, let's get started. So your template over here on the left is where you're going to type stuff. We have specific headings that have to be used. We cannot add new headings and we cannot delete headings. So for instance, we don't have a past surgical history area. So don't add it. If you have past surgeries, put that under past medical history. We don't have a family history. So if you have marital status, or maybe if the number of children is pertinent to the information, you would put that under social history. But don't add new headers, is my point. And don't take any away. For instance, if they don't have allergies, don't remove that. In fact, I don't think you can. Let's see. Yes, you can. So you just leave NA to indicate to our software that that information was not included. Okay, let's start at the top. Chief complaint. This is required. This is a required area. And you have to put why the patient was seen. It has to be short and sweet, one sentence. So for this visit, it is because of shingles. So shingles. Okay, it could be, let's imagine it was a follow-up on high cholesterol. Okay, whatever the reason, you put it here. What if it was high cholesterol and recent fall? Whoops. Okay, whoops. You have to put and in there. Okay, so you can put multiple things, but you just want it one sentence, okay? This is for shingles though, so I'm gonna put it back shingles. I can't type. Okay, so notice it's pink. That means I do not have any evidence linked to it. So as I type, and this is my preferred way, I think it's most convenient. If you want to do your evidence after you type it, that's fine. Bottom line is you have to link evidence. So she's there for shingles, and I am going to link all the evidence that supports that. So of course, you're going to listen to the audio and review the text. We're going to imagine that we're doing that. So the doctor asks why she's there. Whoops. Oh, goodness. So the doctor asks why she's there. And then she says she's developing shingles for the third time. So that's the evidence that supports me writing shingles there. Okay. And I have to link everything. So this is the, you know, make sure that you link all of the evidence, but not extra evidence. So you wouldn't want to link to, because that's just extra that's not needed. Okay. All right. HPI is for the history of present illness. So anything regarding the present illness, the medications, the history of the present illness needs to go in here as well. So let me show you what that might look like. The first sentence in the history of present illness has to say the patient is seen today for and whatever reason. That is for every first sentence that you have under HPI. Okay, and you link that. Okay, you're going to notice here that I put one sentence on a row. I never type in paragraph format. Basically, we want one thing on a row. So one sentence on a row, one medication on a row, one allergy on a row. So nothing is going to have two things on a row. And I will point that out many, many times. So I've created my first statement. I've linked it. Now I'm going to add a new line and add my next statement. So she had shingles the first time in 1997. Let's see, her first. Oops. Okay, there's my second statement. I'm going to link that, and it is here. Okay, so when was the first one? The doctor asked, and she says either October or November in 97. Okay, now I'm going to make my next statement. Press enter, go to the next line. Her most recent outbreak was in May of 2006. Okay, and I'm going to link that. That was up here. When was your last time? May of 06. She has a current outbreak. I don't think we know where that is. She does. She does have one current lesion. That's my next statement. Is there only one lesion? And she says, yes, that's the only one I have. Okay. Patient is currently using a steroid cream for outbreaks. And I'm not sure if that's in the text. We're going to imagine it is. I'm going to see if I can find it. But I don't think it is. You can use your search in the browser to find words. Let's see if I can find that. Okay. Has used. So the patient has used steroid creams in the past. Okay. Next line. Let's see. She does not. She does not have a fever or earache. Okay. Any fever, any earache. Okay, so for example, here, she doesn't have a fever or headache. That also probably needs to go in the review of symptoms. So I'm going to scroll down to that area and add that. Okay. So patient denies earache. And again, I'm not a professional NT, so if you would put those in different areas, that may be where they need to go. This is just for demonstration purposes. Where would a fever go, guys? Where would a fever go?
Constitutional, maybe.
Constitutional. Okay, there we go. Okay, so you can put things in different areas as well, wherever the information needs to go. Okay, I'm going to come back up here. Past medical history. So she does have a history of hyperthyroidism. Let's get there in my notes. I know that.
Yeah, and Tracy, like she came in with the problem of shingles, as she's saying, for the third time. It's like kind of recurrent shingles she's having. So can we put it in the past medical history as okay that this patient is having shingles?
Yeah,
in the past?
I think so. Yeah. Okay. Because that is a past issue as well. So, you would link it, for the third time. And then you would probably also link that it was in 06 and the first one it was 07. I mean 97, just like that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. She does have hyperthyroidism. Let me see. And increased cholesterol. So let me show you what I would do there. Hyperthyroidism, a link. And notice everything on its own line. And then increased cholesterol. So this is another thing that's different and going to be different for you. Because we're wanting to increase accuracy for speech recognition, we don't want to use hyperlipidemia. We want to use increased cholesterol. We want to use the terms that are used by the patient and the doctor. So the doctor did say hyperthyroidism, so I used it, but he did not say hyperlipidemia. So I'm going to use increased cholesterol because that's the term he used. Okay, and notice that I am linking the same evidence for different things, and that's okay because that's still the evidence I used. Okay. There's other stuff, but I'm not going to put it all because I don't, demo reasons. I want to get through this so we can go into other things. Social history. This would be like marital status, occupation, hobbies, things like that. Like if she quit smoking. Whoops. Oh my goodness. Sorry. So you would put that here. Occasional social alcohol consumption. Okay, and you would link that evidence. This is not in it. I'm just imagine it is. I'm going to link the evidence. Okay. Current medications. Now these are in it. I'm going to use legitimate things that are in here. So this patient takes Synthroid. Oops. Okay, let's go to that area. Okay, we see that she takes 1.25 grams, I think is what that is. Okay, so I'm going to link that evidence. So she says she's on Synthroid. The provider asks what dose, and she responds. And then he says, okay, and gives the micrograms. So it would need all of this to be legitimate evidence linking. Okay, now we don't know the frequency, so we don't add it. Okay, now notice I used MCG here. I did not use the long form, and that's because MCG is used here. If it had been written out in long form, then use the long form. Most of the time, it is the abbreviation, but just use what is given here. Okay, next we see she's on Tricor. It's misspelt over here, but it is Tricor because I looked it up. So if you do have a misspelling, make sure that you correct the spelling. So she's on Tricor 145. Okay. I thought I heard a beep, so I don't know what that was. She's on Tricor 145, but we don't see the, milligrams. So don't assume that it's milligrams. I would just put this, Tricor 145. So are you on Tricor? Yes. And then where she says 145, it says yes. Okay. This person also takes Allegra D. Okay, let's go to that area. Oh, it's right here. Okay, so she says she takes Allegra D right here. And the provider asks how often, and she says once a day. Okay, so Allegra D, we don't know the dosage, so we're not going to add it. But we do know the frequency, once a day. So we're not going to put QD. We're going to put the terms that they use. So once a day. Okay. And then also she uses a steroid cream, but we don't know the name of that steroid cream. So steroid cream. We don't know the dosage. Well, we do know the frequency, 2 times a day. Okay, so let's look that up. Let's see. Somewhere they talk about 2 times a day, right there. Okay, so steroid cream 2 times a day. Okay, and then you link that where the provider asks, and then she responds. Okay, now if she was taking Advil, but you don't know the frequency, you don't know the dosage, then you just type Advil and link it to the evidence. You just put what you know. You can't make any assumptions. Okay. Here we have allergies. If you know the allergies, you just list them one after the other. If there are no allergies, you just leave NA. Same thing with labs, same thing with imaging. Okay, now the next 2 areas, the assessment and plan, have very specific formatting. So make sure you pay very close attention here because these are big deals on the formatting. So it has to be formatted in the correct way. Okay, so under assessment, you're going to list anything that that the patient and the doctor discussed as currently being the case. So shingles. Also, well, the hyperthyroidism is still a current issue. Whoops. Okay, so you list your conditions, And then under your conditions, so these are your main points. Your main points are conditions or diagnoses. They have to be conditions. They cannot be things like lab results, recheck, breathing study. They have to be conditions or diagnosis as your main points. Okay. Then you list their statuses as subpoints. Okay. And all of these are linked. Everything is linked. Nothing should be pink. Okay. So for shingles, its current status is uncontrolled. Oops. Okay, because she currently is having an outbreak. Okay, she's developing shingles for the 3rd time. She has a lesion, so that's why it's uncontrolled. Okay, things for statuses that you can use, uncontrolled or controlled on whatever. So you can say if it were, maybe it were controlled. So shingles controlled on medication, controlled on Famvir, maybe something like that. Controlled, uncontrolled, managed, unmanaged, new onset, worse in the last 3 weeks. Those are things that you can use as assessments. And those are the things that are statuses under assessment. Those are the things we're looking for. Okay, so hyperthyroidism. So we would link this to where hold on, I want it. Where she has hyperthyroidism. And let's say that's controlled on Synthroid. Okay. So that would be your status for hyperthyroidism. Wherever it says that. Hold on, let me find it. There we go. Okay, controlled on Synthroid. You know, whatever evidence supports you having made that statement. Okay, so under assessment, you have your main points as the conditions or diagnoses. Underneath them, you list their statuses as subpoints, and you make the subpoints by adding dash space. The dash space is very important, and it allows the software to know that this status goes with this condition. So make sure that you make that in these, you make your assessment in this format. Okay, the plan, now, okay, let me add another one. On occasion, you can have assessments that do not have statuses. So if in this office visit, the patient reports headaches, then that's an assessment. So she does have a headache. She reports it, but you don't really know a status. So in that case, if you don't know a status, you can leave it blank. But if you have a status, make sure you add it. If we find that you just are skipping that, we'll send the files back to you and have you add them. So make sure you add them if you know them. Okay. Any question on the assessment?
One question, Tracy.
Yeah.
So we were able to identify, like they said, hyperthyroidism, and then we found out a drug related to it. It was Synthroid. And along with hyperthyroidism, there was another condition like increased cholesterol. For that also, they might have discussed some medication. So can we add in that way without self-diagnosing it as a hypercholesterolemia?
Well, so if they discussed it, and they said increased cholesterol.
Right.
You want to add it as an assessment. You don't want to, you can't change it to a medical term though. So whatever
Right.
they said, then is what you would use. But yes, you would list everything that that person has currently here. I just did it for demonstration purposes. Is that what
Absolutely,
you were
yes.
asking?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
one question, and something related to that is like, so whatever drug they are discussing, even if a provider or a doctor is not saying that, okay,
Okay.
this particular drug is related to hypothyroidism,
Mhm.
but he's just asking patient, okay, what medications you're on, and
Mhm.
then it is our duty to map those medications to that assessment.
No.
Okay.
So if they say, for instance, okay, let's say that they also said that this person was on Ambien.
Mhm.
You know, and you link it to where they say, yeah, I take Ambien, but they never mention insomnia or any sleep issues. Then
Right.
you do not list it here.
Got it.
Yeah. So only the things that were actually discussed.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Understood.
Yeah. So we can't make any assumptions, even though we know that somebody taking Ambien would have some sort of sleep issue. We don't know
Right.
what that is, and we can't assume what it is. Yeah. Make sense?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Now, so this is how you would craft your assessment. If you have statuses, you list them. If you don't, because it's just vague, and you know, there may be times when it's vague, then you just don't list a status like these two. If you have them, list them though. Okay, so this is how you craft the assessment. The plan is crafted very much the same way, only the sub items are plans. So let's imagine that, okay, for shingles, the plan that the provider and the patient has decided on are to prescribe Famvir 500 3 times a day for 7 days. So we're going to list the conditions and diagnosis, same as we did here, with their plans, if they have plans, and it'll make sense. So shingles, and then you have to link everything. I know that probably will get a little monotonous, but it has to export with the evidence. So everything has to be, you know, linked. So wherever, you know, they talk about the shingles and then how they're going to go forward with the shingles. So shingles is my condition. I've linked the evidence to that. The plan for the shingles is the sub item. I indicate that with a dash space, and prescribed Famvir 500 milligrams 3 times a day for 7 days. Okay, and you link that to where that was set. And you know, as you listen to the audio, you're going to be at that area. So you shouldn't have to look as much as I am, because you'll be playing the file as you're creating this. So, you know, you're going to link the evidence, and just a heads up, to link the evidence, you click in the sentence on the left-hand side, and then you click the evidence on the right. That's how you link it. Okay. Refill of steroid cream. Oops. Okay, and you link that. So that's and there may be more, but for demonstration purposes, we're just gonna imagine that was it. Let's say for the hyperthyroidism, she's gonna stay on the current dose. So you put hyperthyroidism, you link the evidence, and then the plan is to stay on current dose of simply. Okay, and you link the evidence. Of course, these aren't accurate. It's for demonstration purposes. Okay. Now, if there are no other plans for any of these items, let's say they do not have a plan for increased cholesterol and they do not give a plan for the headache. So you don't list them down here. Does that make sense? So if you don't have a plan for some of your assessments, you don't list them under plan.
Right.
Now,
Go
ahead.
Sorry, Racy. Just a follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
Since we have utilized these assessments in plan also, like shingle and hypothyroidism, we also did evidence linking for assessment. So that same evidence linking should be done for plan 2.
Yes, everything has to be linked. Yeah, and it may be a little redundant.
Got it.
So, maybe you do shingles here and shingles here, but yeah, everything does have to have an evidence link.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if these don't have a plan, then you don't list them down here. Now, on occasion, you will have plans that do not correlate with any of your conditions. Things like annual lab work, vaccines, wellness visits, prescriptions for medications that don't fall under any of these conditions, you put them under other. So let me show you what that would look like. And it's not the case of this exam, but for demonstration purposes, I do want to show you what that looks like. Okay, so you make another you make another main point of other. This is the only word in your whole transcription that does not have to be linked because you don't have anything to link to it. So when you're done with your transcription, the only thing that does not have to be, the only thing that can be pink is the word other, just like this. Okay, so let's add some other type of plans. So flu vaccine in 3 weeks, or wellness visit in 6 months. Or, for instance, let's say that this person got a refill at the end of the visit. She says, "Oh, hey doc, I need a refill on Ambien." But again, they never discussed sleeping issues, and they never discussed insomnia. So that refill does not fit under any of your plan conditions. So you have to put it under other. Okay. So anything listed under other just does not fit under any of your conditions. And you do link those to wherever that plan was made. Okay. So everything is linked except the word other. Does that make sense?
Yes, Tracy.
Okay. So the review of systems, we filled that out earlier when we ran across it. Any of the information that you do not have, you just leave NA. Okay. So once you're finished with your transcription, which we've sort of made our own demo file here, we're going to check for any summary errors. Okay. So once you've linked everything and there is no pink, you have to make sure your evidence linking is on though, because if it's off, then it looks like there's no pink and you've not done anything. So make sure you have your evidence linking on. There is no pink except maybe the word other. You want to click check summary errors. Now, right now, mine does not have any errors. But let's say that I had two things on a row, 2 sentences or statements on a row. If I click check summary errors, it's going to tell me that I have a mistake somewhere. and I can fix that. So I just go back and fix it, check summary errors, and it's gone. Okay. Another thing to point out, and okay, I did not point something out here. Your items under plan, your conditions under plan have to be in assessment. So essentially what we're saying is you can't have a plan item without it being an assessment. With the exception of other. Okay, so shingles I have down here, shingles is up here. Hyperthyroidism I have here, it's also up here. Okay, so if you have plan items, they have to be in assessment, the conditions. Okay, you can have assessments that are not in plan, but not the other way around. Okay, so if I had, you know, misspelled shingles, so I have shingles here, but this is misspelled, so it does not match, and I check my summary errors, then I'll see that I have a plan item that is not in assessment. And I can see that it's just because I misspelled it. But if I did not have shingles, you know, there, if I did not have shingles up here at all, then it would let me know I needed to add it. So for instance, let me show you. If I forgot to put shingles in assessment, and I check my summary errors, it's going to tell me that I have that missing. So I could come back here, add shingles, you know, do my linking wherever it needs to be linked, check again, and then that's fixed. Okay. After you check your errors, then you need to check your linking. So if you check show all linking, it's going to show you everything that you've linked. Now, keep in mind, this is a demo account, so I'm going to have things that are not linked that should be. But once you turn show linking on, or show all linking, you'll be able to quickly scroll through all of your links and make sure that you have not missed any medical information. So at the end, the only thing that should not be linked is basically small talk. And any medical information you would want to make sure that you add. So for instance, we can see here, I missed the Enablix. So this would allow me to come back up here and add Enablix 7.5. And then you do have to turn the show all to be able to link it. But you can go back and link it. Does that make sense? So that's how you're going to use that to see if you've missed anything. Okay. Does that make sense?
Got it.
Okay. So that's how you're going to create your transcription, how you're going to link the evidence, how you're going to check for your errors. And then once you're done, you're going to click submit. Okay. I'm not going to, because this is the test file that I always use. And I have notes on, but you would click submit, the file would go to QA, you would get a brand new file to start over. Okay. If you needed to send the file to QA, you can. You would click QA, you would put your comments or issues in here. Make sure that you complete the rest of the file and do any evidence linking before you send it to QA. If you send us a blank file, we're just going to send it back to you. Okay, so make sure you complete everything else before you send it to QA. You'll click submit here, and then you'll get a new file. The settings area here just takes you to a place where you can reset your password. You shouldn't have to use it, but that's what that'll do. If you get stuck here, you can get back to the editor by just clicking editor at the top. And then the other button, the logout button, is basically what you'll use when you want to log out at the end of the day. So a couple things about that. When you're done at the end of the day, you're going to submit your last file. You'll get a new file. Just don't start it and click log out. Okay, so you'll always continually get a new file. Just don't start the one that you received and click log out instead, and it will log you out to the login page. Some other information about this: if you need to take a break before you begin a file. Don't take a break in the middle of a file. If you are inactive for longer than 20 minutes, your file will go to somebody else. So take a break before or wait until after you're finished to take a break. Don't click submit just because you don't want to do a file. If you do that, they come to us blank and we send them right back to you. Any questions on any of that?
Yeah, hi Tracy.
Yep.
I wanted to know how can you find out about the files that we have done for that day, like which settings? Do we go in settings and find out progress for the day? I guess.
Well, okay. There is a completed number under job, but that is not, so at the end of the billing period, I manually run a report and manually get the calculations. This number is iterations. So if you timed out and came back into this file, it would show as 2 completed. So this can give you a rough idea of how many you've done, but it is not an accurate number. Okay, so that is the only number. We'll have production metrics added at some point for you all to be able to view, but as of right now, that's the only number that you can see, but it is iterations, it's not files. So for instance, if you did a file and you walked away and you never finished it, it would show here, but you did not complete that file. Because I know it doesn't make sense, but do you sort of understand?
Yeah, that's
yeah. Okay. All right, let's look at a few files. I'm going to pause the screen and we're going to look at a few completed files so you get an idea of what we're looking for. So sorry, it takes me a minute to get there.
That's all right.
Okay, let me share the screen again. Henry asked, when you end the report and click submit, then we can go for break. Okay, if you need to take a break, you're going to click submit to send the file that you just did, then log out. I'm sorry, I probably didn't make that clear. So submit the file that you just did, log out. Then when you come back from your break, log back in. There's plenty of work, so you're not gonna not get work. You'll have work when you come back. That will just make sure that you don't have a file that is going to time out and go to somebody else and you think it's yours. Henry, did that make sense? Yeah, okay. All right, so here is a file that another, I'm not showing it yet because I'm still paused, that another editor did. It's a completed file. So this is sort of what we'll be looking for. Okay, the CC is 1 sentence. Okay, It's not a list, one sentence. The first sentence under HPI is telling us that the patient is seen today for, and whatever that reason may be. And as you can tell, when I click on each row, I can see the evidence that the editor has used, okay? And most of the time, it's a few things. So make sure that you have complete evidence linking, that you have not added too much evidence linking that doesn't support the evidence. It's just you went, haywire on linking stuff. We don't want that. We need proper evidence linking. I don't know if I said earlier, in the HPI, you do want, the current medications that the patient is on for the issue. You want the history of the present illness, even if you have those in different areas. So for instance, if this patient is on, he is taking ibuprofen, for back pain. So even though you have the ibuprofen up here, it also has to be in medications. So just keep that in mind, okay? I'm just going to use that as an example. Okay, so we can see all the evidence the editor linked here. That all looks good. Everything is on its own row. Every time that she added a period, she added a new row, okay? She has past surgical history under past medical history. That's what we wanted to see. There is no social history. She just left NA. Current medications for this file was very short. She had no dosages and she had no frequency, and that is okay. She just didn't put them. She just put the names of those medications. And then also here we can see she did not know the topical pain cream, so she just put topical pain cream, okay? We can see the assessment here. The conditions are lower back pain, right hip pain, and a retinal bleeder, okay? And then she has the statuses, uncontrolled and not debilitating for the pain, the back pain and the hip pain. Those are both statuses that can be used. Those are good. And then also the bleeder was uncontrolled. Okay, so you can see the same format I used earlier. Now for the plan, they just had a plan for the retina bleeder. So that's all she put, okay? Due for an eye exam. So retina bleeder is down here in plan. It must have a corresponding matching assessment under assessment, and it does. And then this patient had is getting biannual labs. Well, that doesn't fit under any of the other conditions, so this editor put it under other. So that's exactly how we would want to see it. For this specific visit, we don't have any review of systems or physical exams, so that's not listed. Okay, so you can sort of see what we're looking for. Let me pause it and we'll look at one more.
So, Tracy, before we start working actually, and is it possible that we get some of these reports to check on, to get some hands on it?
No, we don't have any that we can just send. Yeah. But I'm gonna upload this video and send you the link so you can rewatch it. Yeah. So maybe that'll be helpful. But yeah, I don't have any examples that I can actually send you. But I will send you this video, so maybe that will help.
That works. Yes,
and the guidelines has very specific, we'll look at those too, very specific examples. Okay, so here's another example of a file, and this is a really short file too. So one sentence for our chief complaint. Here is our HPI. Notice everything's on its own row or own line. The first sentence is the patient was seen today for, and then the reason, okay? No past medical history or past social history. Here's our medications just listed out. She did not know the cholesterol pill, so she just wrote cholesterol pill. Okay. Also notice for imaging, she uses arterial exam. And this is another example that, you know, this is not the correct medical term for that exam, but that was what was used in the raw data. So that's what she used. And that's what we're, you know, that's what we're wanting. Don't convert phrases to medical phrases or terms, you know, like you normally would. That is one of the things that is very different from what you may have, you know, from what you're used to. Okay, and we can see our assessments: knee pain, hip pain, high blood pressure. Those are all legitimate conditions. They're, you know, the condition that the patient is experiencing now. And we can see our statuses: controlled with shots, persisting, stable. Okay, our plan is to get a venous ultrasound, and that goes with knee pain. So knee pain is in plan. It's also in assessment. Okay, and then also to get a sonogram and to get a hip shot in the future. So those are what goes with the hip pain. But we do not have a plan for the high blood pressure. It's stable, so they didn't do a plan. And so you just don't list it. Okay. And then I think on this one, we don't have any review of systems or physical exam. Okay. Now, if you have review of systems and physical exam, then you put them. You know, if this person would have had a blood pressure, you know, and a pulse and maybe a weight, then you would put all of those here and link the evidence. This was just a very short office visit, and that she did not have that to put. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Just because these are blank does not mean you can leave yours blank. If you have content to put in them, then please, you know, put the content where it needs to go. Okay, any questions on any of that information?
One question, Tracy.
Yeah.
Yes, on assessment where we are mentioning about the status of that condition or a disease.
Yeah.
Like it is stable or controlled. That particular status is linked to any evidence linking?
Yes. So wherever they are talking about, you know, like, for example, so here for the controlled with shots for the knee pain, we can see what she linked.
Okay.
So she's getting shots. She hasn't had any problem with the knee.
Okay.
So that's why it's controlled with shots. So that is where she links it. Now, if you don't have any evidence to support linking, then maybe you don't have a status to put, and it should just be like that. You know, like if you don't know the status because they haven't said something, you know, to give you evidence to say it was stable, then you just don't have a status to enter, and it would look like that. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, awesome. Let's look at the guidelines really quick. These are very detailed. Okay, Henry asked about the vital signs. So yes, if you have anything under the physical exam or general, if you have, you know, blood pressure, pulse, and rate, heart rate, I would put those on different lines, because the software needs to pull those out independently. And the best way for us to do that is to have those on individual lines. That's what I would suggest. Does that answer your question, Henry? Yeah. Okay, let's look at the guidelines. Now, everything in the guidelines I pretty much went over, but the guidelines are very detailed, and they give you very detailed specifics on things you may want to do that may be wrong. and how to correct those. So make sure that you read over these in detail. We're going to zip through them because I'm already almost 15 minutes after when we should be done. So creating office visit, we already looked at. I did the demo. You saw me doing that. We also linked evidence. I showed you how to do that as well. Some additional project specifics that I may not have told you is that there is no PHI. So patient names, date of births, MRNs, doctor names, doctor locations, locations in general, those are all removed. And that's okay. We don't need those to create a transcription from the data we have. So don't send files to QA because there's a blank, because I don't have that information either. So just craft your transcription around the data you have. That's all we can do and all we can ask for. I did say these are not used in patient care. They're used for artificial intelligence speech recognition models. You have a direct transcript of a conversation that is in the right-hand column. You'll see the speakers labeled doctor, patient, caregiver, or nurse, and you'll be able to tell who is speaking. Okay, here's a suggested workflow for you. Review that. Ultimately, do what is most efficient to you. As long as you link all your evidence, you're not missing medical information and you're not missing any evidence linking. Okay, so remember to click show all linking to make sure that you're not missing evidence, and make sure you review your results before you submit them. Okay, for the evidence linking, what we talked about a lot, make sure that you're complete. Make sure that you link the dialogue that supplies the evidence that you used to create your statement. Okay. Again, there's a lot here, so please, please, please review this document in detail. Goal 2, be minimal. And what this means is do not link evidence that is not needed. So link everything that is needed, but don't link more than what is needed. Do not link incorrect evidence, because this is all exported to the client, and it will be uncovered if you just mark things just to make sure you have evidence linked. And we will realize it and send files back to you. So make sure you have correct evidence linking. Missing evidence and missing medical concepts. So don't overlook medically relevant content. This is a really good example. This is a production example where somebody missed anxiety and Xanax because they, I guess, were not paying attention. So that's where the review all linking will come in handy. So make sure that you pull out all pertinent medical information and don't miss that. Okay. This gives you an example of insufficient evidence, which we've talked about. Make sure you link enough. Okay, some more examples, lots of examples here. General guidelines. Make sure that you create complete sentences, and in your statements that aren't complete sentences, make sure that they're grammatically correct as well. End everything in periods. I even do that on my medications just to be safe. No more than one sentence on a line. I basically just say one, each line has one of something, no more than one thing on any line, and you should be good. Okay. The only place dashes are used are in the assessment and plan. So don't use it in the medications. Don't number the medications. Don't try to put them in outline format, just one right after the other. Okay. Don't change terminology. So if somebody says high blood pressure, then use high blood pressure. Don't translate that to hypertension. Don't diagnose. So don't make assumptions. And this example is if somebody gets Adderall, don't diagnose them as ADHD. Don't assume that they have a diagnosis or condition. And we talked a little bit about that too. Leave units of measure as they appear. So that's what I was talking about in milligrams. So if milligrams is in the text as mg, then that's what you use in your transcription. Frequency of medication, use what the provider says. So if they say once a day, twice a day, as needed, don't convert that to the medical abbreviation. Use what is said, okay? You have a list of quick tips here. Make sure you review those. And then our template section. I'm going to go through this really quick. The CC is required. It needs to be one sentence and why the patient is there for today or that day. So example, follow-up for flu or shingles like we saw in my demo file. HPI is the history of present illness. That's going to include the medications they're on for the condition, the physical exam related to the condition, past medical history related to the condition. They'll also, but keep in mind, medications, exams, past surgeries that are not related to the reason should be in HPI. But anything related to the patient's visit will be in the HPI, okay? The first sentence in that section is going to say, the patient is seen today for whatever the reason, okay? You have some examples here. Make sure you review those. Past medical history is going to be for previous surgeries, hospitalizations, injuries, major sicknesses. Social history, substance consumption, habits, diet, exercise, occupation, marital status, sexual behavior. Those will be in social history. Okay, one on each line. Current medication, you saw me do several times. This is the format that you'll want to use. Allergies, labs, and imaging. You list them out, one on each row. If you do not have them, you leave NA. Okay? And then assessment and plan. Make sure that your main points in assessment and plan are legitimate conditions, high blood pressure, neck pain, headache. You can't use birth control, x-ray results, breathing studies. Those are not legitimate conditions. You also can't use blood pressure or cholesterol because those aren't conditions in themselves. You have to have some sort of qualifier to make those conditions, like high blood pressure or high cholesterol, okay? The assessments will have subpoints, and here's an example of some of the subpoints you can use. Here's examples as well. Here's some incorrect examples. The plan must have a corresponding, the condition under plan must have a corresponding condition under assessment. And then you just list the plans as a sub-item. And then any plans that don't match your conditions, you put under other. Okay? And then finally, you'll have the review of systems and the physical exam, which are pretty straightforward. If you have information to list in those areas, you'll list them. If not, you'll leave them as NA, like this. Blood pressure if you have it. If not, you're going to leave NA. Okay? And then there are some common errors that you see at the bottom of your guidelines. Okay? So those are all the guidelines. Any questions?
No, Tracy, pretty clear.
Okay, awesome. So that was everything I wanted to show you. Let me tell you a few things that people sometimes ask me now. You can work anytime. The admin team works daytime US, but you can work anytime you want. Just keep in mind, if you have questions and you email us, we won't see it until daytime US. What other questions do I get? I think that's pretty much it. So you can work anytime. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. Yeah, I want to ask, like, are you working 8 hours, 10 hours, or what?
I couldn't. You were very faint. So can you ask again?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Sort of.
Hello?
Say it again, and maybe I'll catch it.
Can you tell me about the hours, please? Like the shift, how many hours? 8 hours or 10 hours?
Okay. I think you were asking how many hours you should work. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. You can work as many hours as you want. So it takes about, so the average file is 9 minutes long. And it takes about an hour to complete a 9-minute file. It takes about 30 minutes to complete a 4.5-minute file. So it takes about 2 hours to complete an 18-minute file. So on average, it's 9 minutes for an hour. So some files are more, some files are less. If you're going to work 5 hours a day, you know, it depends on if you get long files or if you get short files, but on average, if you're going to work 5 hours a day, you should be able to complete 5 files a day on average. Now, if you want to be able to get the calculation, of course, then, you know, it takes about 7 minutes to do 1 audio minute. And that's the production calculation that we use. So if you are working, if you're going to work 3 hours a day, then you should complete 27 minutes of audio, however many files that is. If you're going to work 8 hours a day, that's 72 minutes of audio. That's what we would expect your averages to be. And that's what we're seeing with the rest of the group. So I don't think that's too outlandish. So of course, there is always a ramp up time, and we take that into consideration, which is why we like to use averages. Does that make sense, Henry, and to whoever asked? I forgot. Maybe it was Sanjeet or Sumit. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, you can work as many hours as you want, though.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yes, Tracy, one more question from me.
Yeah, sure.
If you have any issue with the software or anything with the file, who do we correspond to? Is it you or somebody else?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I'm so sorry.
Oh, I'll just type.
Were you going to repeat that? Sorry. Everybody can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you, Tracy.
Okay.
Sumit here.
Did you hear what Sanjeet said? Maybe I missed it.
No, I am not able to hear him clearly.
Yeah, it was a little
Right,
hard to
right.
understand. Sanjeet, if you want to type it in the chat, I can read it out to everybody if you want. Did somebody else have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. In the meantime, I have one question.
Sure.
Like, suppose if we are working on a file and due to some emergency, we have to cut off the file and we are just moving out of the computer, and after some time we are coming back. Are we going to get that same file to work on?
Okay, so if that were to happen, and emergencies do come up,
right?
that would not be the normal workflow. So if that were to happen and you had an emergency, then submit it, but tell me that you submitted it and give me that ID so I can send it back to you. So that I'm aware that you didn't just submit it, halfway done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then I can send it back to you. If that, if an emergency came up, that would be the easiest for us, for me to get it back to you, and for that not to be lost.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
So I mean, there will be another session for some wire transfers regarding payments and all those things.
In the follow-up in the email that I send out,
Okay.
we use payment vendors like PayPal or whatever, because wire transfers are too expensive. And I'll
Okay.
put that in the email and ask which payment vendor you would prefer, and so you can send that information back to me.
Right.
Yeah, I'll put that in the email. So, okay, Henry's asking, what is the best mode of communication? And you would just email. Right now it's email. I think they're trying to maybe get some sort of texting group. The problem is we're a small team, so it's difficult for us to manage another communication stream. So that may be the case at some point, but right now it's just email. And I'll put my email address in the chat. If you have not submitted your signed contract, I do have to have that back before I send your credentials out to begin working, with that additional, housekeeping items like the payment stuff. So if you've not signed your contracting agreement, just sign it, fill out all the information, and send it back to me, and then I'll send out the username and password. If you have send it to me, I'll send the username and password this afternoon.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
That's about it for today, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, nothing from me.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for meeting with me today. I know I went over. I didn't mean to, but I always do. It'll take a little while for me to convert this video to send out. I do have to have your agreement before I can release the video too. So I'll go ahead and end this session. If you have any questions or anything, just email me, and we're always happy to help. But otherwise, I'm excited to get you guys on our project to help us.
Okay, one last question, Tracy, before we
Yeah,
move on.
sure.
Yeah, is there any limited timeline to complete this project, or are we going to extend this project, or what is that?
Okay. So currently, this project should last until end of April, 1st of May. That's what the client has said thus far. It could last longer, but we have no guarantees of that. So we hope that it lasts longer, of course, but we don't know. That's up to the client.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but we should have, a good 6 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
Why I had this question in mind is like it is really a good opportunity to work in this environment wherein we have every access 24/7 to work whenever we are able to do it. So I'm just looking forward to it, like to be associated in a long-term way. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I would like this sort of, that's why we wanted to leave, it open to be able to work at your convenience, because it's
Right.
just, well, it's convenient for people. So
Exactly.
yeah, we hope that it lasts a long time as well. And obviously, if it does, if you're already on the project, you should be able to continue. I would not see that that you would not be able to, of course.
Right. Okay.
Okay, thank you everybody for your time.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Henry, it's okay tomorrow on the agreement as well. I'll just send those things out to you after I receive that. Everyone have a really great day, okay?
You too, and thank you for
Likewise.
your
Likewise.
efforts to explain us all this training. It
You're
was really
very
great.
welcome.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye now.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.